Joining us today here at our hangar at the historic Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center here in Florida. I want to welcome you to this historic location where we have been launching astronauts for decades. NASA crews have gone to the moon, they've gone to the space shuttle, and they've helped build the space station and launch things like the Hubble Space Telescope to space, right here from this location. And recently, in our partnership with NASA, we've been continuing to send NASA crews to the International Space Station to keep them staffed and doing the excellent science that they do. Right now, I want to welcome and thank the crew of Inspiration4 for joining us. In just a little over 24 hours, they will be blasting off on the first all-civilian mission to space. On behalf of SpaceX and all of our families, I want to thank you guys and thank your families for the trust that you put into us. It's an honor to be able to carry to space on this historic mission. SpaceX was founded on the belief that a future where humanity is out exploring the stars is more exciting than a life where we're not. And this mission that will launch tomorrow is the next step in that great mission. Before I turn it over to the crew to talk a little bit more about themselves and what they're thinking about this mission, I'd like to talk a little bit about what the mission is that we've got coming up here. So the last few days have been super busy. On Friday, we mated the Dragon and the Falcon together. Then over the weekend, we stood the Dragon and Falcon up on the launch pad. You can see that behind us right now. And then we did our crew dry dress, which is a great dress rehearsal where the crew actually goes, they get suited up into their spacesuits, they get into their Tesla vehicles, they come out here to the pad and they go up the elevator, the same elevator that the crews have been going up in for decades. And then they go out across that crew arm and get into the Dragon as if it were launch day. We close the launch hatch and we're ready to go. And then that's a good practice. And then we come back and debrief and make sure that everybody feels good about it. And that went very well. Right after that, early Monday morning, we did a static fire. And that went well. All things checked out. We launch all the motors on the rocket, hold the rocket down for just a couple seconds, make sure everything looked good, and it looked great. And today, actually happening right now, is our launch readiness review. It's our final big review to make sure we've closed out all of the items and addressed any concerns and issues and risks on this mission as we get ready to go. And at this point in time, our teams, the Inspiration4 team, and everybody is ready to head into our time tomorrow. The main thing that we'll be watching is weather. When the crew launches, they'll be launching to an orbit of about 575 kilometers. Now this is significant and historic because it's going to be the highest that any humans have gone into orbit since the Hubble servicing missions. And in fact, they'll be above the current orbit of the Hubble and above the current orbit of the International Space Station. Another historic part for SpaceX is that this will be the first time that we have 3 Dragons on orbit. We'll have a cargo Dragon and a crew Dragon, both at the space station, and we'll have the Inspiration4 crew on orbit. While on orbit, they'll be going around the Earth approximately 15 times every day. They'll stay up for about 3 days, and they'll bring them home safely to land back down here off the coast of Florida to bring them home and reunite them with their families. To prepare for all of this work, this crew has been doing a significant amount of astronaut training. We've got a lot of great stats on this, in fact. For many months, hundreds of hours at SpaceX locations, they've been doing all kinds of training. They've studied over 90 different kinds of training guides and manuals and lessons to learn how to fly the Dragon and what to do in emergency situations. They've done their own kinds of preparations, such as a zero-G flight. They've climbed Mount Rainier together, and they've done a lot of jet fighter flights, which is really pretty cool, including some great flyovers here of 39A just the other day. Some of the other things that they've done to prepare are what we call simulations or sims. It's where the crew actually gets suited up, or whatever their appropriate attire would be for the phase of flight that they're in. They get into a simulator of the Dragon capsule. It's basically a replica of the Dragon capsule at our Hawthorne location. And they are in there, they got the comms on, they've got everything going. And all of our mission operation teams are also on console in the mission operations room, all integrated together doing these simulations. They've done many of these. In fact, they've even done a 12-hour and a 30-hour simulation, flight-like end to end, making sure that they're actually ready to go. And we're happy to say that this crew and our operations team and the entirety of SpaceX is ready and certified and ready to fly. As always, we're going to continue to listen to the data. We're going to listen to the hardware, and we're going to make sure that we're really ready to fly. Over the next 24 hours, we're not done when we get through the launch readiness review. We continue to make sure that we'll take this crew safely to orbit and bring them home safely to their families. One of the things we'll be paying a lot of attention to, of course, is the weather. Right now, the weather is trending well, and we'll continue to watch that as we go. As we've talked before in previous human missions, we look at not only the launch weather, but we have to look at the return weather for in case we needed to use the launch escape system all along the corridor of the ascent track. But we'll also, in the case of this mission, be looking at the weather when we come home in just 3 or 4 days from now. It's important to understand what that weather looks like too. So we'll be integrating all of these variables together to understand if we're ready to launch or not. Once again, on behalf of SpaceX, all of our employees, I want to take the opportunity to thank you, the crew, for your trust in us. I want to thank NASA for their great partnership in helping us develop this capability to carry crews to space. And I also want to thank the FAA and the 45th Space Wing for all of their support, including on the launch and return of this mission. And now, we should take it over to you guys. And we'd love to hear from you on how you're feeling and what you're looking forward to in the mission.
Yeah, thanks, Benji. Hi, everyone. Jared Isaac, Commander Inspiration4. You know, from the start of this mission, we've been very aware of how lucky we are, how fortunate we are to be part of, this history that SpaceX is creating right now. So this seems like a time for just some acknowledgments. First, just expressing appreciation for all the pioneers who've come before us and paved this road that we're traveling on right now. And also to the foresight and ingenuity of SpaceX some 20 years ago. For without their efforts then, there wouldn't be an Inspiration4 mission today. And then just to talk a little bit about Inspiration4, this dream began 10 months ago. Really, not that long ago, actually just prior to Crew 1 launch. We set out from the start to deliver a very inspiring message. Certainly, what can be done up in space and the possibilities there, but also what we can accomplish here on Earth. And we chose to do that through an interesting crew selection process, in which I feel like that objective to assemble a very inspiring crew who all have so many amazing qualities and contributing so many interesting firsts to this mission has been accomplished. And we also chose to do it through the largest fundraising effort in the history of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, acknowledging the real responsibilities we have here on Earth in order to earn the right to make progress up in space. And I feel like we're well on our way to achieving that objective as well. So can't express enough how appreciative we are of this amazing opportunity. We know that the 4 of us are about to have an experience that only about 600 or so have had before us. And we're very focused on making sure that we give back every bit of that time that we get on orbit for the people and the causes that matter most to us. Thank you.
I'm Haley Arceneaux. I am the medical officer of this mission, and I just want to start off by thanking Jared and SpaceX for just allowing this mission to be possible, and the awareness that it's raising for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, all the funds, the $200 million goal that we have set that I know we're going to crush, and it's going to go to these kids that I get to work with who inspire me every day. And we just couldn't be more excited about the mission. I think we have a lot of future astronauts at St. Jude now. And just from a medical officer perspective, I'm so excited about the medical research that we're going to be doing on this flight. And we're going to be collecting a lot of swabs to learn about the microbiome, how that changes in flight. We're going to be performing ultrasounds to evaluate for fluid shifts, as well as performing some cognitive tests and studying radiation effects of going to our high altitude. And to mention the payload a little bit, this is a fundraising effort for St. Jude. And we're really excited to bring along an NFT by Kings of Leon's called Time in Disguise, their new release hit. And we're going to jam to it on orbit and later auction that for St. Jude, which is so special to be part of. But we just couldn't be more excited to launch tomorrow. So thank you all so much for making this happen.
I'm really grateful to be here and to have this opportunity, and thank you to Jared and to SpaceX for everything that you've done for me. I am the mission pilot, and it's really special for me to hold that title because I'm going to be the first Black female pilot of a spacecraft. There have been 3 Black female astronauts that have made it to space, and knowing that I'm going to be the 4th means that I have this opportunity to not only accomplish my dream, but also inspire the next generation of women of color and girls of color, and really get them to think about reaching for the stars and what that means. So I feel very fortunate to have that. Space to Inspire has always been my motto as a teacher. And when I was talking to my students, you know, the thing about it was when I would say space to inspire, they're thinking outer space, but really it's this space, your space. We all have this unique space that we carry with us everywhere we go. And getting to know what it is that makes us passionate and how to share our unique gifts with the world is so important. And knowing that as an educator, I get to go to space and now do that. I have memories of Challenger and being home with Crystal McAuliffe and what that means to me, her legacy as being the first teacher in space to me being now this educator going to space, and how do I bring everybody along with me. So I'm thrilled to say that my school, South Mountain Community College, part of the Maricopa Community College District, has supported me during this entire endeavor, and I'm bringing art and poetry with me to space. Not only my own original art and poetry, but I'm bringing student art and poetry, and then we have a whole community of artists that are doing a fundraiser for St. Jude. It's an NFT fundraiser, but it's digital art, one-of-a-piece kinds, with astronauts like Nicole Stott and Ron Guerin and myself, and also young artists like Nyla, who's 12, who has contributed a piece to raise money for St. Jude. And so that's going to be available only while we're on orbit, and it's NFT going to space.com, and all the proceeds support St. Jude. Chris, what have you been thinking about?
Oh gosh, I mean, so thanks, Leo. So I think I've been just thinking about how lucky I am to be a part of this crew, to be a part of this mission. From watching a Super Bowl commercial and making a donation to not winning that, and then having my friend win it, and then through his generosity give that spot to me. I think that just really puts me in a very special spot where not only do I feel very lucky to be here, but I have a huge responsibility to, you know, pay that forward and show that generosity towards others, and to bring that message to everyone else as we go through this flight and as we come back. I also get this opportunity to inspire my daughters, and it's already been an incredible year for them to see the folks at SpaceX working and to see all of the work that happens here at Kennedy Space Center. It's truly inspiring for her, as well as so many other kids, like you mentioned, Haley at St. Jude. And then I've talked to some other educators around the Northwest and throughout the country. They're very excited by this mission, and obviously that exuberance is coming through with me today as well. As a mission specialist on this flight, I'm really excited to make sure that we have a very successful mission, that we take care of all the medical experiments in a way that's truly going to help expand humanity's presence out in space for the long term. I also am very excited that I'll be able to try my hand at playing some music on the ukulele up in space, so I apologize for any ears that are listening intently, but I'll give it my best shot, and I do know the acoustics are pretty good in Dragon, so it'll come through. But I just also wanted to say, as we get on with our mission and go up into space, that I hope people take the opportunity to look ahead and look at each other and feel inspired to pursue whatever it is that you are passionate about, and give of your talents and your time and your resources to other people. Not only are we trying to raise money for St. Jude to try to eliminate childhood disease, but we can do so much good around if we just reach out to each other, and I know that that's what we're doing as a crew to make sure that we are going to be successful in space. So again, thanks to SpaceX, and Benji, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today, and Jared, thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Awesome. You guys really are inspiring. Let's take a few questions here from the room. We'll take 4 or 5 here from the room, and anybody online, if you're going to be coming in, please press *1.
Hello, Marcia Dunn, AP. You're 4 fairly ordinary people about to do something that's anything but ordinary. And I'm wondering if you have any last-minute jitters, butterflies, do you feel the pressure starting to mount just a day out? And what personal reassurances is Elon Musk offering you our words of wisdom.
Sure. So I think maybe I can answer the last part of that question first, and then I think everybody should contribute. So we did just have a leadership check-in meeting, of which we have them rather regularly with SpaceX as well, especially as hardware, software, and all the other preparations were coming together for this launch. So Elon was on the last call and did give us his assurances again that you know, the entire leadership team is solely focused on this mission and is very confident. So, and that obviously inspires a lot of confidence for us as well. But no jitters, excited to get going. So.
Yeah, and just speaking to how we're feeling, I personally I'm so excited. And any jitters are the good kind, where I'm just so excited for tomorrow to get here, and just feeling really grateful to be where I am.
I was always worried that this moment would never come in my life, so I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
Right, and same for me. I never thought I would have this opportunity, but being able to be in front like this is great. No worries, no concerns. You know, maybe a little bit of stage fright a little bit when you have to sing and play at the same time, even though that was self-induced, but we'll have some fun up there. I'm totally confident in the entire SpaceX team, and so thrilled to be a part of it.
I also like to look at risk on a relative basis. So the last couple days we've been tearing up the skies in some fighter jets, which I put at relatively higher risk in this mission, so that we're nice and comfortable as we get strapped into Falcon.
Hi, Irene Klotz with Aviation Week in Space Technology. Jared mentioned that the training for this mission was more intensive than what he was thinking he was getting into. Benji, as the first flight that SpaceX has done without NASA oversight and NASA astronauts, and from any feedback you've been able to get from this crew, how do you think this training might change for future civilian crews?
That's a great question. You know, ultimately, right, we want to make life multiplanetary. And that means putting millions of people in space one day. So the long-term vision is that space flight becomes airline-like, right? You can buy a ticket and you go. But right now, the appropriate thing is that we still train people significantly. And as I mentioned, this crew has been astronaut trained like our other crews that we've trained before. As we evolve, we may look at ways that we can, we want to make sure the crew is safe always. We want to make sure the public is safe during launch and reentry. But as we look for ways to evolve toward that airline-like model, we'll look for how we can, cut back on the amount of training that's necessary to ensure safety.
Hi, Miriam Kramer with Axios. Good to see you guys. This question is for everybody, including Benji. I'm actually curious, the last time you were in this hangar and doing this kind of press conference, you were being announced to the world for Cyan and Chris. I wonder, if you guys could reflect a little bit on how much things have changed for you, and just sort of even emotionally, what it feels like now versus then. Same for you, Benji, if you don't mind. Thanks.
I'll start real quick because I want to hear from these guys mostly. For me, it blows me away, honestly. This has been about a 9-month-ish journey, right? 9 or 10 months. And so that's just incredible, right? And that's a sign of moving towards that, make space accessible for everybody. And it gives me goosebumps even right now to think about we were facing that way because we had some rockets here in the hangar. And now, a few months later, we're facing this way so you can see their rocket and their Dragon up on the pad. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think it was just yesterday I was doing an interview, and one of the questions was, what have you really missed out on as you've gone through training? And the answer is reflection. We really haven't had the time, at least, I mean, not to speak on behalf of the crew, but we talk about this quite a bit. From the time this mission was announced in this hangar to where we are today, we've just been going supersonic. It's just been super fast. One training event after the next, a number of these life-changing experiences in their own right in quick succession. So yeah, I mean, as we walk in here, for sure, it clicks that, I think last time we were talking to a lot of cameras was when we announced this whole thing, but that feels like it was yesterday. So it's one of the reasons we're really happy that we've had a chance to connect with all of you, why there's a documentary, so that, when this thing's over, we have a chance to look back on everything we've experienced and kind of remember those good memories.
Back when we were here last, I think that was in February, it felt far away that we were going to space. We didn't have a date. It was almost kind of abstract. And now, I mean, our rocket is behind us, and we're going in about 27 hours or so. And so it's just so much more real and just so exciting.
For me, since the announcement when we were here last, every day has been the best day of my life. And it's only getting better. So I'm just thrilled and just holding on, and maybe reflect once we get back and are at the splashdown party, but every day it just gets better and better.
Yeah, I agree with Cyan. Stand by.
At least it's not the hurricane warning.
That's true. That's true.
That would mess
So
with timelines.
we're going to let you continue. Just for everybody knowing what was going on in the background there was a COVID announcement. There's a speaker system here on the station and the base that we have to hear certain warnings. And this was a COVID reminder. And it's actually a good time to remember that we are all vaccinated, and we're all practicing appropriate COVID protections, as well as the fact that the crew is also in quarantine, as they should be before they go to space. So, go ahead.
Oh yeah, well, so that part hasn't changed over the last 6 months, right? So, but more seriously, I think just going from like what Haley mentioned, it just feels like yesterday that we were here. I had no idea what we would be really in for when we started out, and now that we're here, it's been an amazing process, meeting so many incredible people, and just building that confidence that there's nothing that we can't do if we put our minds to it and work together. So it's just been an incredible journey. I just can't believe that I'm still sitting here, and like Jared mentioned too, we'll reflect back on everything when we come back, and I think we're not done once we do Splashdown either. I know that we want to continue to be able to inspire people throughout everything that we've done in space and throughout this entire year, and through the documentary that's out now that you can take a look at and learn some more about what the experiences we've done this year. That'll be our way of processing as well, and we'll be processing right along with you guys through all of this. So I'm excited to take every one of you up with us now that we are here, like Haley said, 27 hours.
Awesome. We're going to take one more question here from the crowd, and then we're going to go to the phone.
Hello, congrats everyone. My question is, what was the most difficult part of your training? And I'm Robin from Supercluster, by the way, and I look forward to adding each of you to the astronaut database tomorrow night.
I would probably, I mean, everyone should contribute, but the academic phase was really kind of the first part. Need to have an appreciation, understanding of the systems before you go and start pushing buttons. So that was a little overwhelming when we got dumped a lot of PDFs on us and right away. And then it was a little bit of death by PowerPoint for a couple weeks, but then it immediately went into kind of the more fun phase, where now you're taking all that knowledge that you've accumulated and you're putting it to practical use through nominal operations, and then you move into some of the contingencies, and then you start to really bring it together in those sims that Benji was referencing, and that was probably the most fun part. So where you get to interact with the army that is SpaceX, that comes together to make these kind of missions possible. So yeah, that's my training reflection.
Well, I might just jump up ahead so you can end on a good note too, baby. But I know that for me, one of the most difficult parts for this was just going through it with my family, how I've had this incredible year with my crew and my teammates here, but remembering that our families are the ones that are also supporting us in all this, and they're having a completely different experience, and listening to everything from the outside without being right down the center line of working with Benji and the team at SpaceX. So, but getting that support and getting that brought together, and also doing everything for the first time as an all-civilian crew. We're writing the rules, we're breaking a couple of them that NASA used to demand, and well, we get to kind of do things our own way. So that's been a fun part, but also a challenging part as we navigate all of this.
I know a challenging part for me, growing up as a black female and always trying to be a high achiever and not mess up. And so just having that pressure on yourself of, thinking about not wanting to be eliminated, not wanting to miss out. Make sure you're the best of the best, because you're opening up the door for the people who follow you. And a lot of times, if you're in that position of a role model, if you slip or you mess up, then it means that you're kind of shutting the door for those behind you. And so having that pressure and thinking about how do I be the best, not only for myself, but for my crew members, but then for also everybody that follows behind me, so that so there is a path forward for that JEDI space, a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space that we all want to strive for.
You've done an incredible job.
Yeah.
And for me, probably the most daunting, I will say, instead of difficult, was climbing Mount Rainier. And that was one of our first crew bonding experiences. We got to know each other really well, really quickly, and as we hiked for almost 10 hours up the mountain and then spent 3 days on the mountain, but I think it definitely showed us that we can get through anything together, like Chris said, and also we get along really well under pressure.
Awesome. Right now we're going to go to the phone. I think we have Michael Sheets from CNBC.
Hi everybody, great to chat with you guys. I'm curious to hear a little bit from Benji on the kind of missions in the wings behind this one. We talked a little bit about the training feedback you've gotten. I'm curious how many different missions SpaceX has lined up on the similarly all private side that are non-government missions, and what other organizations you guys are working with, and maybe if you're going to build some more Dragons.
That's a great question. The reality is that the Dragon Manifest is getting busier by the moment. It's awesome. Like we've got obviously this mission coming up. Just this year, still, we'll have our Crew 3 mission to send a new crew up to the space station. We have another cargo mission after that. And then heading into the new year, we will have another commercial astronaut mission. We'll be sending 4 astronauts up for an Axiom mission for the Axiom company that will be delivering those astronauts to the space station, to stay on the space station for a few days. It just goes on from there. We have a number of NASA missions that we'll do, and we also have a growing backlog of commercial astronaut missions that we're looking forward to perform. I think we have Nick Mazoff from People magazine on the line.
Hi there. Congratulations on reaching this exciting milestone. I'm really curious, after you finally exit Earth's atmosphere and enter space, what's the first thing you'll be doing to celebrate?
So I'll be excited to get back to my patients and get to share this with them. I think there's going to be a lot of fun pics and stories to share.
Yeah, I think once we're up on orbit, the first thing we'll be excited to see is to see Haley find out or reveal what our zero-G indicator is and or how that connects back to our overall mission. I think that's going to be the first way we celebrate.
Completely agree.
Yeah, just toss that out. And then when we get to reveal the cupola for the first time, will be a really big moment, I think, because that view, we're all excited about it.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's go back to the room.
Hey guys, Ed Ludlow from Bloomberg TV. Benji and Jared, in one of the scenes in the documentary series, there was some debate about the merits of going to 575 kilometers. And there was a dissenting voice in the room, off camera, on the phone. Ultimately, Benji, who made that decision? Where did the buck stop on going to that distance? And what are the kind of additional challenges and risks? And Jared, why were you so set on going to that altitude for the orbit?
Why don't we start with Jared?
Sure. So actually, the person who was expressing some of that initial concern was in one of our last risk briefs at Hawthorne, which was just like a week ago before we came here. And I was like, before you start talking, somebody cue the ominous music, because you need that background now anytime you speak. Well, anyway, you'd know it if you saw the Netflix. So yeah, now I just wish we pushed them to go higher. But why? I mean, we've been going to the space station for some time, and there's just unbelievable science and research and great contributions that are coming out of there. But if we're going to go to the moon again, and we're going to go to Mars and beyond, then we got to get a little outside of our comfort zone and take that next step in that direction. So that was really the rationale, and I think that there were, obviously they wouldn't have mentioned it they wouldn't have mentioned that there weren't some additional risks if there weren't, and there are, but ones that we've now had really several months to think through and mitigate in order to safely execute at that orbital apogee.
And to answer the question, ultimately, we do want to inspire, and Jared has been a great partner and a great driver to push us towards inspiration and the meaning of the mission, in practice. And ultimately, it's also, though, about safety and reliability. We want to make sure we take the crew safely. So when we first set up the mission, we look at it and we say, well, okay, what have we been doing? What do we know how to do really well? We've been doing it for NASA. So we were looking at those kinds of parameters. But it's not to say that you can't go and do more, and you should go and do more when you can. And so I think it was a great push, honestly, from Jared, and the team looked at it, we assessed it. Certainly Dragon's capable of doing it, and we did all of the risk analysis to make sure that we'd fly safely.
I mean, this is just to brag a little bit on SpaceX. I mean, this is the organization, that is going to, in large part, get us to the moon, and certainly with the eyes towards Mars, right? And there's a lot of risks on a 6-month journey like that. So better to, I think, start taking some steps now, today, in a very well thought out and mitigated way, so that we can continue to reach towards those extraordinary goals, like making life multiplanetary and the world more interesting when people can journey among the stars.
Chris Gephardt with NASA Spaceflight. I'm wondering, Haley, you mentioned all the science experiments that are on board. Are there others than the ones that you mentioned before? And for all of you, what's sort of the science experiment you're most excited about for this one in terms of either performing it or what it can give back to us after the mission? Thank you.
Yeah. So those are the main ones that we're doing, and we're really excited about the ultrasound. We've all gotten briefed on ultrasound and to evaluate the fluid shifts. And it's really unique that this is flying with us. And so I know the docs at SpaceX are really excited about it, and so we are too.
I think some of the ultrasound ones, will give us some insight into intracranial pressure, which may help understand some things that have, some vision-related issues that have impacted astronauts previously. We also have had giant chunks of our skin taken before and after flight, which Leo here has a great idea. If you get them in the same spot on the arm, you can create dragon eyes for the eventual dragon tattoo, which is cool. But this is going to be important too, because they're going at our orbital altitude. It is a higher radiation profile than what would be observed at the space station. And the greater the understanding we can have on that, the better planning we can make for future long-duration missions like going to Mars.
Right, and the other, I know we're also, a couple of us are measuring our glucose levels during flight. We're looking for ways to include more people going into space, not just eliminate folks. So by understanding how the body, it metabolizes its sugar over the course of 3 days, if it's different in space, that's another great contribution, because we could potentially be able to send diabetics up into space if there's some mitigating factors that we could do to help support those.
And for me, from just an artistic standpoint, I'm excited to bring paint and do some art in space, and thinking about just the fluids and the dynamics of watercolors and pulling paint from the palette and putting it on to the paper, but also pens and markers, and really trying to show my students what that looks like and how that process is happening. And so I'm excited to see what not so great masterpiece that I will be making while you're playing.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be a fun art experiment up there.
Hi everyone, Jackie Waddles, CNN. So my question is about the capsule. Would love to hear from any of you. I'm sure you're very familiar with the craft you're going in, but also for Benji. Are there specific differences apart from adding the cupola that are built in for safety? Any other changes that were made to resilience before this flight?
The cupola is the main change that we made. And really, it just takes the place of the docking adapter. Since we're not docking anywhere, it makes sense to have a cupola and have the biggest contiguous window that's ever been put in space. But otherwise, it's the same very safe Dragon that we're flying right now for NASA crews.
Hey, it's Chris Davenport with the Washington Post. Benji, just to follow up on the question about the higher altitude, can you talk a little bit about that risk analysis, what went into it, and how you ultimately came to the conclusion that, yeah, we can fly them at that altitude, it's safe to do so?
Sure, absolutely. You know, so a lot of things go into what, you know, when you're doing a mission plan, right, a mission profile, or what we call mission design. And first of all, you want to talk about performance, right? Do we have the prop or the fuel to go to where we need to go to, and have plenty of margin for the entire mission, and then additional if we have, you know, need to stay up any longer, and then, you know, plenty to come home. So you're doing a budget there. You're doing budgets across all of your other consumables as well, right? So for example, your ability to scrub carbon dioxide out of the capsule, or your water, your oxygen, food, things like this, of course. Other things that you're looking at as you go to the higher altitude, Jared mentioned one, right, is a radiation environment. Another one, of course, that we talk about is MMOD, or micrometeorite impact, orbital debris. We need to make sure that we understand and have bounded, you know, any risk assessment based on that, and make sure that we're flying Dragon and Dragon's able to handle that. And so these are the kinds of kind of across the whole vehicle and across the whole mission where you look at, okay, this is our profile, this is where we want to go. Does the vehicle perform and come home with adequate safety margin to do that? So a lot of it is a safety margin analysis.
Hi folks, Katie Coleman, one of the former astronauts, and actually I'm along with Leland Melvin and Ron Guerin. We are helping to host the Netflix Time, you know, send-off, which is really a way for everyone that you love to be watching if they're not here, right? And we were talking last night, and we really, like, we know what it's like to fly on the shuttle and live inside the shuttle, and we know what it's like to do that on the station, but we don't know what it's like to be inside the Dragon. And we would love to know, what are you most, like, what are you most excited about, and maybe kind of like, oh, let's see how this goes in terms of those 3 days, because everyone wants to know. And it's nice to see you.
Well, I think we got a really good taste of life in Dragon. We did a 30-hour simulation. And so we were in our Dragon simulator in Hawthorne for 30 hours straight, and we had a great time. But also it was so helpful because we went through the process of launch and then just living in Dragon, and we did some of our experiments. We did different things that we're going to be performing up there, some of our daily tasks, and we even practiced calling our families. And so we got a really good taste. We slept in the Dragon simulator, and then the next day we went through reentry. But we were really funny in space. We were just having such a good time and joking around. And at the end of the simulator, at the end of the 30 hours, I was like, oh, I don't want to leave you guys. So I'm excited we'll have a little bit longer when we're actually in space.
I think also just moving around. You know, we did a zero-G flight, but it's not enough time. And so I know we're going to like spin Haley a bunch of times around. And, you know, some of the things that we've seen astronauts on the ISS do or on a shuttle, just the way you have fun together, the way you eat together, but also just the way you navigate that unique space. And so I think that that's one of the things that we're looking forward to, is how do we figure out how to navigate our space and have fun while we're doing it.
We're just excited to welcome you to the family.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Hey, Joey Roulette with The Verge. Question for Benji. I wanted to follow up on Jackie's question. Is there anything other than the glass dome that is different with the interior of the Crew Dragon? Is there anything operationally different about this mission? Obviously, we have a new type of crew here. But, you know, and also, for example, if there's an abort scenario, do you have the same kind of recovery teams on standby? And then I had one other question for the crew. Millions and millions of people are going to be watching you guys, you know, in the next couple of days. What do you want them to take away from this, just generally? Each, you know, you could answer that. And what does this mean, and why does this matter? Thanks.
No, honestly, in terms of Dragon, there's really no significant other changes to Dragon. You know, other than swapping the docking adapter for the cupola. It's the Dragon. It's the awesome Dragon that's flying. It's up on station right now. It's the same one these guys are going to fly in, and that these guys are trained to fly with all of its capabilities.
Yeah, I guess in terms of the, you know, what we hope people take away from all of this, you know, I think two things come to mind. One, you know, we understand, you know, the significance of this mission. We understand how lucky and fortunate we are. And we tried to be very, very thoughtful about our approach on this to hopefully set the standard for other missions to follow. And that in our mind is a lot about the responsibilities we have here on Earth, in addition to what we hope can be achieved in space. And the other thing too is I would say is that it's just getting started. That would be the other takeaway I'd have, is this is just the beginning now.
For me personally, I'm really honored to be representing kids with cancer and childhood cancer survivors, but everyone in life has been dealt a certain hand. Everyone's had to overcome something. And I hope that those who are in the process of overcoming something can look to me and see the importance of holding on to hope, because I firmly believe that there are better days and you don't know what's around the corner.
For me, as a geoscientist, there's no better place than home. So I think about how solving for space solves for Earth. And as we push human spaceflight further and further, all of that technology and information that we learn is not only is it designed here on Earth, but we use that here on Earth to make our planet better. And so I think that that's really important. And then also, space to inspire, thinking about how we can inspire you to use your unique space to do something for not only yourself and your family, but for humanity, and getting people to think of ways to do that. And as we move, to the moon and Mars and beyond, we're writing the narrative of human spaceflight right now. So when we do that, we need to think about a Jedi space, a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space for all of humanity. Because we're on Starship Earth and we want to bring everybody along with us.
Well, and then I guess for me, I'm just going to echo everything else everybody's already said. We really hope that we can inspire people through this mission to pursue some science and technology careers, inspire the artists and people to really share their own talents, no matter what it is. I think beyond that, we've got this huge mission to raise money for St. Jude and really eliminate childhood disease through this big fundraiser. So my biggest takeaway that I would hope everyone could get from this mission is that feel like you're a part of this mission and help us reach our goals. I think that's the best thing we could do.
Yeah, hi, Jeff Calkins from the Daily Memphian. For Jared and for Haley, what do you see as the logical connection between space travel and addressing childhood cancer? And then for Haley in specific, when you think back to that day when your mom was making pancakes and felt the knot on your knee to where you are sitting now, how do you even begin to think about or describe that journey?
I'll let you take the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was important that it needed to have a connection. I just really felt at the time Inspiration4 was created, and knowing that this was going to be a first, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that, we had to send a message that there are real problems and real obligations we have to pay attention to here on Earth in order to earn the right to make progress for tomorrow. St. Jude was, one that I gravitated towards right from the start, because I do know how lucky I've been in life, and I think, again, to just using Haley's example, there are a lot of families that have been dealt a really, really horrible hand in life that don't get to grow up and experience anything close to what we're able to go through now and tomorrow. So just felt like we had to do something about it. That's why St. Jude became such a big part of the mission.
And thank you for that question. Thinking back, that was almost 20 years ago that it was just a regular day, and then my mom found a lump which turned out to be cancer. And I never thought I'd be sitting here in front of a rocket about to go off into space. We've really taken things one day at a time from that moment. That's how we've had to get through that really difficult year. But I am so thankful for my journey with cancer, because it gave me a love for life, just a zest for life and a confidence to say yes to opportunities. And because of my cancer, knowing that I'm sitting here today and getting to represent all these other kids, this is the biggest honor of my life.
Rachel Crane from CNN. Question for the crew. I know you guys mentioned you heard from Elon earlier today, but any other surprising voices you guys have heard from wishing you well? And also a question for Benji. There's a lot of firsts with this mission, but of course one that stands out to all of us is the beautiful cupola. Can you talk to us about the challenges of incorporating that into Crew Dragon? Thank you.
you want to take that part?
Okay, I'll take the cupola first. Really, it's like any other part of Dragon. It's a component and a subsystem in and of itself, and so we have to go through the same development process, right? We got concepts, we got ideas, we do some initial testing or some initial on the bench and doing some development creation of what it might look like, looking at different materials, but then we put it through the full rigor of the full body of tests that we need to do. The qualification campaign, thermal, structural, making sure we understand what the thermal dynamics will be in the capsule when we change that volume of space. It actually increases the volume of the habitable volume of Dragon significantly. So we had to analyze that and make sure we could work through that. So all those little details, but you do the same thing for any new component or any new subsystem that you put on Dragon.
And I could say something. I know that for me, turns out space is a topic and a subject that really brings a lot of great people together. And so I've got family who lives all over the country, and they've decided that this is the moment in time to come together and join up. So to me, that was a great and aspiring thing that's come out of this, is that we're all coming from all over different parts of the country and congregating here in Florida. And I'm really excited to celebrate with them when we get back. That was one surprising thing for me.
Hi.
Well,
oh, sorry.
Anything else to add?
I was just going to say, aside from Elon, like we've heard from so many astronauts from the time this mission was announced. I mean, those who've been on shuttle, Soyuz, those that have walked on the moon, and even as of late, we had a chance to speak to Crew 1, and they were able to give us, some of the very Falcon and Dragon specific knowledge that you'd only probably have if you went uphill and downhill with it. So. The sounds of Dragon, we've gotten some insights into, but a lot of outreach, a lot of support from the astronaut community, especially because they know there's a lot of space up there, and it's going to take organizations like SpaceX and a lot of people that are willing to go out and explore it. So they've been very supportive.
We also had a very special call today, and one of the things that was important to me was, my parents have both passed away. And I'm not married and I don't have kids. And so when I was thinking about who do I want to talk to at this time, I have my siblings and stuff, but it just didn't feel quite the same. And as we go and embark on this inspirational mission, I thought, well, who has inspired me and who would I want to talk to and just thank them for the impact that they had in my life. And so I was very fortunate that I could help me and my crew speak with Michelle Obama today. And so we had a very nice conversation that will stay with me the rest of my life, because she has inspired me, and I feel so fortunate that I could have that opportunity and share it with my crew.
Hi, Lucie Aubreau for AFP. Publishing stories about this mission in the last few days, we've been able to see a lot of comments on social media about the environment, and people in the general public often say, well, this is bad for the environment. So I'm just curious, Jared, how you respond to that critic.
Well, I think, the founder of SpaceX who's able to make this mission possible, I can't think of an individual who's had more of a positive impact on the world with Tesla. I mean, a single individual that's, been able to really bring about this electronic vehicle revolution. So you're not talking about somebody or an organization here that openly disregards the impact of the environment. The whole roadmap, and I think it's rather public, is how to continue to make this type of capability, more sustainable, but also it recognizes that there are a lot of things that some of which are outside of our control that can have a pretty detrimental impact on our home planet here. And that's why it's so important to make humankind a multi-planetary species. So yeah, I think that there's certainly valid concerns there. It's always worth the discussion and debate. But I think if you really do the research behind it, you're talking about an organization here that cares very, very much about this world we live in, and that's why SpaceX exists.
Hi, Ken Chang from New York Times. In the documentary, there was a mention of cold pizza. So I was wondering if that's been ordered and packed up. And more broadly, what else will you be eating during the mission? And what are sort of the daily life things going to be like on the mission, such as eating and sleeping? What are the arrangements? Or the sleeping bags and such?
The cold pizza better be packed, because that was my order. You know, food and mood is so important. So I think for us, it was really important working with SpaceX to get food that made us feel comfortable and that we could eat. And they've done a great job of accommodating that because I think we're all really happy.
Yeah.
Food's gonna be great.
Then just daily life up there, it's gonna be fun. It's like an extended camping trip. You know, you're in a camper van with some of your closest friends for 3 days, and it's just, you roll out the sleeping bags at night, just like any other camping trip, and just strap yourself in so you don't float into each other during the middle of the night, and just do all those normal things that you do just to live and. You know, just like we do every day. So it'll be a couple unique challenges, you know, but maintaining privacy here and there, but we've gotten some great tips like Jared mentioned from Crew 1, and we'll let you know more about how successful they were when we come back.
We came out of the 30-hour sim and still wanted to go, so I think that's a good sign.
For sure. All right, now we're going to go to the phone. I think we have Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now. All right, we'll come back to the phone. We'll go ahead and take one from the room.
Japan. I have a question about the launch capability of the crewed mission of SpaceX. So there's 2 more missions coming up in the next few months after this Inspiration4 mission. So how often can SpaceX launch a private crewed mission besides NASA commercial crew launch?
That's a great question. You know, right now we're gearing up to be able to fly 3 or 4, 5, 6 times a year at least. So I look forward. There's nothing really that limits our capability to launch, right? It's about having rockets and Dragons ready to go, and having those, you know, having everything in the manifest aligned with all of our other launches. Sounds like I'm hearing that we're going to go to Emily Speck from KNNG.
Hi, Emily Speck with WKMG. I just had a question for, I guess, Diane. What do you think this means to the Space Coast for everyone here to be watching? This is the first launch of its kind. Thanks so much.
I think that, you know, having, being the mission pilot and being able to represent, you know, not only that, but being an older Black female, you know, in my 50s, and I think that I think it's just going to be inspiring to see that you can know that those dreams that you had when you were a kid can still come true. Because a lot of times we think that we've missed our prime in our once our 20s and our 30s go by, and then we get into our 40s and we're like, oh yeah, all right. But it's not true, and I think that when we lift off, it's going to be inspiring, not only for me, but I think everybody who's following along, because they can connect with every one of our crew members in a unique and special way.
All right, I think we have on the phone Marina Corinne from the Atlantic.
Hi, this question is for Diane, Chris, and Haley. In your training for this mission, was there a moment or a situation that you experienced that made you think, okay, I'm going to be fine. I trust SpaceX technology and SpaceX software to take me on this journey and bring me home. And this is something I can tell my family and friends about to help reassure them. And what was that moment for you?
Oh gosh, I mean, you were starting to ask the question, and you went a different direction, but I kept thinking about what moment did I feel like we were going to be successful with this mission. And to me, it was that moment when we all made it to Camp Muir and knew that we were going to be okay, that we could accomplish no matter what the objective was, and that we were not going to stop until we did that. So getting to Camp Muir, I think, was a huge point for me. In terms of knowing that I could bring a message back to my family to show them exactly what we're doing, I think that was probably almost day one at SpaceX. They gave us their quick introductory Space 101 presentation of how they see a mission going, how they see a mission working, and knowing all the safety and experts they put behind everything that they do. That really sealed the deal there. It's like, I don't have any worries, concerns. They're going to do the right thing.
For me, I think it was definitely the 30-hour sim, because I'd lived in Moon and Mars simulations with people before, and sometimes there's a crew member you might want to kick out. But in this case, there wasn't any of that. You know, we lived together, we operated together, we had fun together, and it really just made me want to do it again. And it got me so excited for when we do it up on orbit.
I remember for me really specifically, there was a moment. This was my 3rd visit to SpaceX, and I got to sit in on a really long meeting with all the lead engineers of every aspect of the mission, and got to hear their plan for our mission. And my mom she was at SpaceX too. We got to meet everybody, and at the end of the day, we looked at each other and said, "We trust them. I'm in great hands." And we still think so, for sure.
Okay, I think on the phone we have Manuel Asante from Debate.
Hi, how are you? Thank you. Manuel Asante from Debate. Congratulations to the 4 of you. This is an incredibly exciting mission. You know that I cover the space program in Spanish, and I know that Haley speaks some Spanish, and it would be so nice to listen to her say a few words. So if you don't mind, Haley, I have two quick questions. Me gustaría que nos cuentes, quizás en representación de los 4, cómo se sienten, cuáles son las sensaciones después de 5 meses de entrenamiento y a 24 horas nada más de lanzar mañana en esta increíble misión. Y después sabes que hay una comunidad muy grande de gente que habla en español, no solo en los Estados Unidos, sino en toda Latinoamérica, desde México, Argentina, España, que están siguiendo paso a paso esta misión. Y me quería preguntarte si tenés pensado dar algún mensaje en español cuando estés en órbita. Muchas gracias y felicidades a los 4 de vuelta.
Pues claro que sí. Y estoy muy, muy, muy emocionada para ir en 24 horas o más. Y claro que sí que quiero recordar un mensaje en español, porque hay muchas personas que hablan español que me han dado apoyo y que tienen en mi corazón.
Está muy bien. This is nuestra casi última respuesta. That'll be our almost last question. We have our last question coming up right now, but I didn't quite catch if it's in the room or on the floor. Tim Dodd? Hey.
Hi, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Besides you, lovely crew, and everyone up there, the other star of the show obviously has been the cupola. I have 2 more questions about the cupola. First off, Jared, did you know that was an option when you were booking this flight? Did you actually, I mean, that's the selling point right there. Like, that cupola is amazing. Did you know about that? And then the other question I have about it, is there, that mock-up has a beautiful view, would be taken from like the little latch of a camera. Is there actually a camera that will have that view of you guys inside the cupola with Earth in the background? Like, is that going to happen on this mission?
So I was not aware that the cupola was in works at the time Inspiration4 was created. It's actually, yeah, it's one of the other things I just like to brag on SpaceX about is that, I mean, that really became, that idea was starting to gain momentum in December, so about a month and a half after Inspiration4 was born. So to see something like aerospace go from a concept through development, through analysis, testing, and be flight ready within essentially 6 months is unheard of, especially something as significant as like the largest continuous window in space. So anyway, super impressive, but not something we knew of at the time, but has been incorporated into our training as we progressed. And the answer is there is a camera. So should have some pretty cool shots.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, I think that's going to wrap our briefing for today. First, I want to thank all of the employees of SpaceX and all of your families for your dedication and your sacrifice that brings us to this precipice of right now when we're about ready to go launch this crew. We keep talking about the short amount of time, relatively speaking, that it took for us to get here. And I know the dedication and the whole company appreciates all of the work that everybody has done. I know this crew does. And to the crew, thank you. And thank you again to NASA and the 45th Space Wing and to the FAA. And we look forward to following you guys tomorrow. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything.